We've just had the Defence Investment Plan. Why were you able to get an extra £1.5 billion that John Healey, your predecessor, wasn't able to get? Did you threaten to walk?
I'm really proud that in just a couple of weeks I was able to secure £15 billion of new investment, but also change the capability included within the plan.
But John Healey couldn't get that in 2 years. Why were you able to?
Well, it's also important to say this sits as part of a commitment to spend £298 billion on defence over the next 4 years, and a commitment that defence will be the number one priority in the next spending review. I'm really proud of the progress that we've made, but there is much more that I need to do now in terms of supporting our armed forces and making sure that we're geared and resourced for the longer term.
And did you get that extra 1.5 billion that John Healey couldn't, because you said, if you give me the job, Keir, I'll take it, but I need the money or I'm out as well?
I made it clear to the Prime Minister that I will always stand up for the men and women in our armed forces, and that's what I did.
Is that a very diplomatic way of saying yes?
It's a very diplomatic way of saying that I will always do right by defence.
Okay, look, you've got a heck of an uplift, but £4.7 billion of that is up to whoever the new Prime Minister is to find, whoever the new Chancellor is in a new budget. We know that the Prime Minister didn't tell the person most likely to be the next Prime Minister about that black hole. In hindsight, would it have been wiser to tell Andy Burnham about the £4.7 billion he's going to inherit?
Well, Andy Burnham will be the next Prime Minister. He's someone I've known for a very long time. I have not a shadow of doubt that he understands the importance of defending our nation, and I have not a shadow of doubt that he will make sure as Prime Minister that we've got the resources we need to keep the country safe. Andy Burnham will deliver those resources, I have no doubt about it.
Yeah, but should he have been told that he's going to have to deliver 4.7 billion quid?
It's entirely routine, not least in the context of spending 298 billion over the next 4 years, that a tiny portion of that amount will be accounted for as part of the next fiscal event. That's entirely
Andy Burnham's
routine.
team doesn't think it's entirely routine. They're quite angry about it.
So the Prime Minister is absolutely clear that there will be a smooth transition from Keir Starmer to Andy Burnham, and we will absolutely make sure that that is the case, not least because of the importance of national security and the importance of defending our nation.
Okay, you say that you're clear that Andy Burnham will find the money. Is that because Andy Burnham's been on the phone to you and said, this defence investment plan, I'm on board with it?
It's because Andy Burnham, as a Labour Prime Minister, will understand the importance of defending our nation and will make sure that we've got the resources to do that, in the same way that all Labour Prime Ministers always make sure that we've got the resources we need to defend the nation.
Has Andy Burnham been in touch with you since the Defence Investment Plan?
Yeah. So there's been a number of conversations with Andy and his team about the transition of power to him being Prime Minister in the next couple of weeks.
Does that include a conversation between you, Dan Jarvis, the Defence Secretary, and Andy Burnham, the man who's going to be the next Prime Minister most likely?
You'll understand that I'm not going to get into the specifics of private conversations,
No,
but I've known Andy
whether
Burnham.
or not a conversation has happened.
So I've known Andy Burnham for a very long time. He will make sure as Prime Minister that we've got the resources that we need to do the very difficult work that we've seen here brilliantly today being done by our Royal Navy.
But, Mr. Jarvis, I'm not asking for the details of the conversation, but it sounds very much like it's been almost a week since the Defence Investment Plan, and Andy Burnham, the man most likely to be the Prime Minister, has not been in touch with you, the Defence Secretary.
No, of course we're talking to Andy Burnham and his team to make sure that
But not you and him personally.
to make sure that there is a smooth transition, not least because of the importance of defence and the importance of securing the nation. Andy Burnham, as a Labour Prime Minister, will make sure, I have no doubt, that we've got the resources that we need to fund the kind of activity that we're seeing here being done by our Royal Navy, because that is critical to our national security and critical to the defence of our nation.
I know, and a lot of people will listen to this and think, wait a minute, Andy Burnham in the last week has met with MPs, he's met with union bosses. It doesn't sound like he's met with you or spoken to you directly about the Defence Investment Plan and the safety of our nation. That's a concern, isn't it, for people worried about the safety of the nation?
I'm not going to get into the business of personal conversation. I've known and worked with Andy Burnham for a very long time. He will be a very strong Labour Prime Minister, and he will make sure that we have the defences to keep the country safe. I have no doubt about that. There will be a smooth transition from Keir Starmer to Andy Burnham. And what I'm doing is getting on with the job of being Defence Secretary, making sure we publish the Defence Investment Plan. Some people said that we weren't able to do it, and we've done it. We're getting on with the job of keeping the country safe and supporting those who serve. And I'm very proud of all those people who do step forward to serve.
But just to be clear, a lot of people will draw the conclusion after this that Andy Burnham has not been on the phone to you, has not met with you personally about the Defence Investment Plan since it was announced.
The conclusion that I would draw from this is that as a Labour Prime Minister, Andy Burnham cares deeply about the defence of our nation and will make sure that we've got the resources in place to keep the country safe.
He barely mentioned it in his speech last Monday. He barely mentioned defence.
I've known Andy for a very long time. He takes the security of our nation incredibly seriously. And as a Labour Prime Minister, he'll make sure that we've got the resources to keep the country safe.
Okay. Look, the reason why we're up in the high north is because of the threat from Russia. There's been some reports, I'm just giving some clarity here, about Russian shadow fleets now taking different routes around the UK, around French waters. So can I just check, since UK troops boarded a Russian shadow fleet vessel a couple of weeks ago, have we seen a change in the modus operandi of the Russian shadow fleet?
We take every opportunity to deter Russian aggression. We should be clear-eyed about the fact that the threat from Russia exists in every domain, under the water, on the land, in the sky, in space, and in cyberspace as well. We need to make sure that we're properly geared to guard against that threat. That's what we're doing. The interdiction a couple of weeks ago was a really important operation, brilliantly conducted by our Royal Marines. And we will make sure that we're doing everything that we can, not least because of the progress that Ukraine has been making in recent time, to deter Russia from their aggressive acts. That's what the interdiction was about. There's a requirement to do it again. We won't hesitate to do so.
And have we seen a success now because of that interdiction? Have we seen Russian fleets circumventing UK waters because for fear of what they may face?
Yeah, so I'm confident that the actions we took a couple of weeks ago will and are having a deterrent effect on Russian shadow fleet vessel activity.
So they're staying out of UK waters, they're staying out of French waters?
Well, let's see where we get to over the next few days and weeks, but we take that threat very seriously. We acted a couple of weeks ago, and if there's a requirement to act again, we definitely will do so.
You're heading to NATO this week.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years, we've seen from the US that they've taken opportunities like this to give an ear bashing, quite frankly, to UK prime ministers and defence secretaries.
Yeah.
We haven't heard a concrete timetable of when we're going to get to 3% of GDP being spent on defence, which is what the US want. Are you heading into this week, again, expecting an ear bashing from Donald Trump, from Pete Hegseth?
Well, firstly, let's be clear about the fact that some of what the Americans have said in recent times is absolutely right. Europe does need to step up. We do need to do more. And I want to make sure that the UK is playing a leading role in terms of doing that. And I think that we are. We must honour the commitments that we've made to our NATO allies. That's why we will be spending 3.5% of GDP on defence by 2035. And in the context of the next spending review, which will take place in 2027, we'll need to be able to chart a clear trajectory to that. I was at NATO headquarters just a couple of weeks ago. They wanted us to publish the Defence Investment Plan. That's what we've done. They want us to honour the commitments that we've made previously, and that is what we will do. NATO partners look to us for leadership. We've provided it previously. It's my job, the Prime Minister's job, to make sure that we provide it in the future, and I'm confident that that's what we'll do.
But is that the baton you're passing on to Andy Burnham now, saying, look, at that next spending review, that's when we need to set out a clear timeline of when we're going to hit 3% of GDP?
I want us to honour the commitments that we've made, and at the next spending review, we do need to set out a clear trajectory to be able to evidence how we're going to be spending that 3.5% of GDP by 2035. The current Prime Minister has said that defence will be the number one priority, the next spending review. It's my job to make sure that we're making that case across government with the new Prime Minister and new ministers as well. That's what I'm determined to do. We've got to make sure that we've got the right capabilities in the mix as well, but fundamentally we need that level of resource in order to honour the commitments that we've made to our NATO allies.
Is it up to Andy Burnham now to say some words, to back it with action that will convince the US that, as Keir Starmer said, defence is his number one priority?
Well, we've got the Ankara Summit next week. That is an important opportunity for us to meet as an alliance and to restate our commitment to the alliance, as well as restating our commitment to Ukraine for the fight against Putin's illegal invasion. We'll have a new Prime Minister in the next couple of weeks. And as I say, I don't doubt for one moment that he completely understands the importance of defence. And I am confident that the spending review next time will give us the resources we need to honour the commitments that we've made.
We've heard the scary NATO warnings about what to expect between now and 2030, that Russia is ready to invade a NATO nation. Do you think the public understands that threat, how visceral that threat is? What's your message to the public?
I've spent the last 2 years as a security minister dealing with a threat, so I'm under no illusion of the nature of the threat that we face from Russia. I think
Is it as significant as NATO warns?
Absolutely it is. Russia poses a threat in every single domain, and we have to be proportionate in the response to that threat. I think it's important, though, to bring the public with us. We do need to have a national conversation about these issues. We do need to engage with the public, and we need to ensure that in addition to the work that we're doing in defence, we've got that wider societal response. That is work that I was previously involved with as a security minister. That is work that is well underway and will continue. So yes, we need to have that conversation with the public, but fundamentally my job is to make sure that we've got the armed forces, the people, the kit, the capability to defend against the threat that undoubtedly we do face.
That sounds like a message not just to the public, but to Andy Burnham.
Well, I don't feel the need to send messages to Andy Burnham on the basis that I've known him for a long time, and I know that how seriously he takes
And yet he hasn't spoken to you in the last week.
I have absolute confidence that as Labour Prime Minister, Andy Burnham understands the nature of the threat that we face, and as Prime Minister will make sure that we've got the resources to respond to that threat.
He said that he wants to spend a lot more time up in Manchester, that he wants a lot of governing to happen out of Manchester. When you're actually in Downing Street, when actually matters of national security are on your, that's your purview, that's what you've got to deal with. Is that feasible? How able is it to drum up a Cobra meeting while he's up in Manchester?
Well, the last time I looked, Manchester was pretty well connected, and I'm certain that Andy Burnham would agree with that as well. Look, he and I are both former Metro mayors. We both believe in devolution. We both believe in investing in different parts of the country that have maybe been forgotten in the past. I think there's absolutely no conflict in terms of wanting to see every region of the United Kingdom prosper, and we do want to see that, whilst at the same time making sure that we are strong, very strong on matters relating to security and defence. I have complete confidence that wherever the Prime Minister is, he's able to provide that leadership, not least because I'm very confident that he will be supported by people doing jobs like the Foreign Secretary, like the Defence Secretary, like the Security Minister. That will be for the new Prime Minister to decide who he wants in that top team, but I have absolutely no doubt that national security will always be the number one priority for this and the next government.
And when they set out that new spending review in 2027, that's when we can expect a pathway to 3%.
I expect to see a clear trajectory to 3.5% at the next spending review.